The first time my father looked proud of me, he was looking at the wrong woman. For 3 terrible seconds, standing in a crowded security line with my invitation trembling in my hand, I actually thought he was finally seeing me. My name is Claire Bennett, and that was the problem. I still don't know why that memory hurts more than everything that came before it. Maybe because by then I was 38 years old. Maybe because by then I should have known better. Or maybe because some wounds don't heal. They just get quieter. The hostess had made a mistake, that was all, a simple misunderstanding. A woman near me had arrived at the same time, similar age, similar dark suit, similar posture. The hostess glanced at her clipboard, looked up, and smiled. "Ms. Bennett?" The woman nodded automatically. My father's face changed. Not dramatically. Most people wouldn't have noticed. But I noticed. Children who grow up studying a parent's moods become experts at tiny things. A slight lift of the eyebrows, a shift in posture, the way someone's mouth softens before they smile. For one brief moment, he looked proud. Proud. Then the hostess checked the list again. "Oh," she frowned, "I'm sorry." She turned, not toward the other woman, toward me. "Claire Bennett?" The smile returned. "Thank goodness, we've been waiting for you." And just like that, my father's face went blank again. The pride disappeared so quickly, I almost wondered if I'd imagined it. Almost. I wish I had. Because that expression followed me all the way back to childhood. Back to unfinished dinners. Back to baseball fields. Back to a house where love existed, but somehow never landed in the right places. People imagine family damage as something obvious. Screaming, violence, cruel words. Sometimes it's none of those things. Sometimes it's a father asking about your brother 6 times during dinner and forgetting to ask about your day once. Sometimes it's realizing your achievements have become background noise. Sometimes it's spending 20 years trying not to care. I was 9 years old the first time I understood I was losing a competition nobody had told me existed. It happened at our kitchen table. Nothing dramatic. Tuesday night, meatloaf, mashed potatoes, a television murmuring somewhere in the living room, the local weather forecast, rain coming Thursday. My younger brother Ethan had just returned from Little League practice. He was 7, covered in dirt, talking so fast half his words collided with each other. Dad laughed at everything, every sentence, every story, every exaggerated detail. Meanwhile, I sat beside them holding a certificate from school. Student of the month. I'd spent the entire day waiting to show him. The paper rested against my leg under the table, getting softer each minute. Dad finally noticed me. "What have you got there?" My heart jumped. I handed him the certificate. He glanced down. "Nice." Then Ethan started talking again. Dad looked away. The certificate came back. Conversation over. I remember staring at the paper, waiting. People don't understand how long children can wait. 30 seconds can feel like 30 minutes. I kept expecting more. "Good job. I'm proud of you. Tell me about it. Anything." Nothing came. Eventually, I folded the paper, finished my potatoes, went upstairs. Years later, I would struggle to remember what the certificate was actually for. I remembered the feeling perfectly. Not the accomplishment, the feeling. That's how emotional memory works. The details disappear. The bruise stays. Mom found me sitting on my bedroom floor. The certificate was beside me. She picked it up, read it, then looked at me. "Oh, Claire." 3 words. Somehow she already knew. I hated that. Not because she was wrong, because she was right. I shrugged, pretended not to care. I don't know why they give these things out. Mom sat beside me. The mattress dipped slightly beneath her weight. Outside, a dog barked somewhere down the street. A car passed. For a while, neither of us spoke. Then she touched my shoulder. "Your father loves you." I stared at the wall. The response escaped before I could stop it. Then why doesn't it feel like it? Silence. Not defensive silence, painful silence. The kind adults have when they know something but don't know how to explain it. Mom looked down at the certificate, then back at me. Sometimes people love imperfectly. At 9 years old, I didn't understand. At 38, I understood too well. Because loving imperfectly became the defining skill of almost everyone in my family, especially me. The thing about favoritism is that it doesn't stay in one room. It spreads, quietly, like water finding cracks. At first, it affected only my relationship with Dad. Then it affected my relationship with Ethan. Then it affected the way I saw myself, too. Then it affected everything. By middle school, Ethan's achievements had become community events. People knew his statistics, his batting average, his coaches, his tournaments. Adults stopped me in grocery stores. "How's your brother doing?" My brother. Never me, always my brother. I learned to smile, learned to answer, learned to disappear. The strange part is that Ethan wasn't cruel. That's what made everything more complicated. I wanted a villain, someone easy to blame. But Ethan was just a kid receiving attention. If anything, he often tried including me. "Come watch practice. Want to play catch? Look what coach said." Sometimes I said yes, sometimes I didn't. The older I got, the more complicated my feelings became. I loved him. I resented him. I felt protective of him. I envied him. Sometimes all at once. Nobody tells you that jealousy can coexist with love. It can, and when it does, you feel guilty all the time. At 13, I started keeping a notebook, not a diary. At least, that's what I told myself. Just observations. Things people said. Things they forgot to say. Tiny moments. Tiny disappointments. I never intended it to become evidence, but that's what happened. One entry read, "Dad came to Ethan's practice in the rain." Another, "Dad forgot my science presentation." Another, "Bought Ethan new equipment, told me we need to save money." Reading those pages years later felt uncomfortable. Not because they were inaccurate, because they revealed how desperately I was keeping score. And scorekeeping changes people. It certainly changed me. I became competitive in strange ways, quiet ways. If someone praised Ethan, I immediately wanted an achievement. If someone celebrated him, I wanted proof I mattered too. I hated that about myself. Couldn't stop doing it. Mom noticed. Of course she noticed. One night she found me studying at nearly midnight. School books everywhere. Half-finished tea. Eyes burning. "You have a test tomorrow?" I nodded. She glanced at the books, then at me, then sighed. "Claire, what? You don't have to earn your place in this family." I laughed, actually laughed. The sound surprised both of us. "That's funny." She looked hurt. Immediately I felt guilty, but I couldn't take it back, because part of me believed the opposite. I believed everything was conditional. Love, attention, approval, worth, all of it. Earned, never given. Mom sat across from me. The kitchen light cast shadows beneath her eyes. She looked tired, older, though I didn't notice how much older until years later. "I wish you could see yourself the way I do." I looked away. That sentence would haunt me. Not because of what she said, because of what happened afterward. Because eventually, there would be nobody left to say it. The illness arrived quietly, the way disasters often do. Not with alarms, with excuses. Fatigue, headaches, appointments, tests, more tests. Mom kept insisting everything was fine. Then she stopped insisting. Then she stopped talking about it altogether. The first time I saw fear in her eyes, I was 16. We were in the hospital cafeteria. She was stirring coffee she wasn't drinking. The spoon kept circling. Again, again, again. I watched her hand shake. Very slightly. Enough. What did the doctor say? She smiled. Too quickly. The wrong kind of smile. The kind adults use when protecting children, even when the children aren't children anymore. Nothing we can't handle. I nodded, pretended to believe her. We both knew I didn't. The spoon kept turning. Neither of us touched our food. The television above the counter played some daytime talk show nobody was watching. Someone laughed on screen. The sound felt inappropriate. A month later, we got the truth. And everything after that became divided into before and after. Before diagnosis, after diagnosis. Before hope, after hope started shrinking. The worst part wasn't the treatments, or the hospital rooms, or the medications lined across countertops. The worst part was watching someone you love begin preparing you for life without them, while pretending they aren't. Mom started saying strange things. Important things disguised as ordinary conversations. She'd ask if I knew where documents were, how to manage accounts, which relatives could be trusted, which couldn't. At first I thought she was being organized. Then I realized she was saying goodbye in slow motion. I hated her for it. Not openly. Secretly. I hated every practical conversation, every prepared envelope, every instruction, every contingency plan. I wanted denial. I wanted false hope. I wanted somebody to lie to me. Instead, she kept handing me reality, and reality felt cruel. One night, we sat together on the back porch. Late summer, humid air, crickets everywhere. Dad was inside watching sports. Ethan was at practice. Just us. Mom looked exhausted, the kind of exhaustion that reaches bone. You've been angry lately. I stared into the darkness. No. Claire. I sighed. Maybe. At me? I wanted to say no. Instead, tears appeared immediately, embarrassing, uncontrolled. I don't want to need these conversations. Her eyes closed briefly, as if the sentence physically hurt. Then she nodded. I know. I started crying harder, not loud, the worst kind, silent, the kind that leaves your chest aching. Mom moved closer, wrapped an arm around me. And for a long time we just sat there, neither of us pretending anymore. The crickets kept singing. Cars passed occasionally. The world continued, which felt insulting somehow. Eventually she whispered something I wouldn't understand for years. People don't always become who we need them to be. I thought she meant Dad. Later I realized she meant everyone, including herself, including me, including life. And maybe that was the lesson. Not that people fail us, that expecting perfection guarantees disappointment. Still, knowing something intellectually doesn't make it hurt less. The final year with Mom felt like living inside a countdown nobody discussed aloud. Every good day felt suspicious. Every bad day felt terrifying. Dad became more withdrawn. Ethan became louder. I became watchful. The house filled with tension. Not explosive tension, exhausted tension. People moving around each other, avoiding certain topics, pretending, always pretending. One evening I walked into the kitchen and found Dad staring at a stack of medical bills. Just staring. Not reading, not calculating. Staring. The television was on, muted. His coffee had gone cold. For some reason, seeing him like that frightened me more than any hospital visit, because for the first time he looked helpless, human, small. I almost sat beside him, almost. Instead, I walked away. That decision would bother me for years, because grief makes cowards out of people. We think there will be another conversation. There often isn't. And by the time you realize it, the opportunity is gone. Forever. The day everything changed arrived on a Wednesday. Ordinary weather, ordinary morning, nothing dramatic. The nurse called around noon. I was at school. By evening, nothing felt ordinary anymore. And somewhere inside the chaos, while watching my family begin to break in different ways, I made a decision that would quietly shape the rest of my life. I decided I would never spend another year waiting for someone to choose me, and I had no idea what that promise would eventually cost. The last thing my mother said to me when we were completely alone wasn't profound. That's the part nobody tells you. The final conversations people remember in movies are always perfect. Everybody says exactly the right thing. Everybody somehow knows they're standing inside a moment that will matter forever. Real life isn't like that. Real life is messy. People are tired. People are scared. People are trying not to cry. My mother was lying in a hospital bed, irritated because the blanket kept sliding off her feet. I remember that more clearly than anything else. The blanket. The television playing quietly in the corner. A nurse laughing somewhere down the hallway. The smell of antiseptic. My mother's wedding ring hanging loose on fingers that had become too thin. She looked at me, really looked at me, the way she always had, like I wasn't invisible, like I wasn't standing behind somebody else, like I mattered. "You're not sleeping." I rolled my eyes. "You aren't either." A small smile, then silence. Not uncomfortable silence, just two exhausted people sitting together. Eventually she reached for my hand. Her grip felt weaker than it should have. That scared me more than anything. I tried not to show it. She squeezed once, very lightly. "Claire." Something in her voice made my stomach tighten. I looked up. "What?" Her eyes stayed on mine. "Don't spend your life waiting." I frowned. Waiting for what? She was quiet. Too quiet. Then she gave a tiny shrug. "People." At the time, I thought she meant my father. Years later, I realized she meant everyone. Approval, validation, recognition, love, forgiveness, all of it. People spend entire lives waiting for things that never arrive. My mother knew that. Maybe she had known it longer than I did, maybe longer than anyone. I wanted to ask more. I wanted explanations, instructions, something. Instead, a nurse entered the room. The conversation ended. Just like that. Half finished, unresolved, normal. The next morning she was gone. And for a very long time I hated that nurse. Not rationally, I knew it wasn't her fault. But grief isn't rational. Grief looks for places to land. Mine landed everywhere. The nurse, the hospital, the doctors, my father, myself, especially myself. Because no matter how much time you get, when someone dies, your brain immediately starts creating a list. Things you should have said, things you shouldn't have said, questions you forgot to ask, arguments you regret, moments you wasted. I carried that list for years. Maybe I still do. The funeral felt unreal. Not tragic, not dramatic, just unreal. Like watching someone else's life. People hugged me. I nodded. People cried. I nodded. People told stories about my mother. I nodded. The whole day passed in fragments. Faces, flowers, voices, hands touching my shoulder. At one point, somebody asked if I needed anything. I almost answered, my mother. Instead, I said no, because what else was there to say? After the funeral, everyone slowly returned to normal, or tried to. Dad went back to work, Ethan returned to baseball. Neighbors stopped bringing casseroles, phone calls became less frequent. The world moved forward. I couldn't. The house felt wrong. That's the best way I can describe it. Wrong. The furniture hadn't moved. The walls were the same. The dishes were still in the cabinets. But something essential had disappeared. Like the building had lost its center of gravity. Without Mom, every flaw in our family became impossible to ignore. Especially Dad. Before she died, she absorbed things, softened things, translated things. Without her, there was nobody left translating. Just raw versions of ourselves. And I didn't like what I saw. Not in him, not in me. Part of me expected Dad to suddenly become different, more attentive, more aware, more present. Grief makes strange bargains. You start believing pain should transform people. Sometimes it doesn't. Dad remained Dad. Still proud of Ethan, still emotionally distant, still convinced he was doing his best. Maybe he was. That possibility made everything worse, because if that was his best, then what exactly had I been waiting for all those years? A few weeks after the funeral, I found a letter. Not intentionally. I was searching through an old cedar chest for a winter sweater. The envelope sat beneath folded blankets. My name was written across the front. Just 2 words. Claire, love Mom. My hand started shaking immediately. I knew, before opening it, I knew. I sat on the floor, the chest open beside me, the room completely silent, and I read. The letter wasn't long, maybe 2 pages, but I still remember parts of it. Not word for word, the feeling. The feeling never left. She wrote about courage, about kindness, about refusing to become bitter. That last part annoyed me, even then, especially then, because bitterness already felt stitched into my bones. The sentence that stayed with me most wasn't inspirational. It wasn't poetic. It was simple. Never let someone else's limitations become your future. I stared at those words for a very long time. Someone else's limitations. Not failures, not cruelty. Limitations. The distinction mattered. My father couldn't give me what I needed, maybe because he didn't know how. Maybe because he had never received it himself. Maybe because people can only offer what they possess. Whatever the reason, my mother's message was clear. Stop waiting. Build anyway. So I did, or at least I tried. The year after her death became the hardest year of my life, and the most important. I worked constantly. School, part-time jobs, scholarship applications, anything that moved me forward, anything that kept me busy, anything that prevented me from thinking. The kitchen table disappeared beneath paperwork, financial forms, essays, recommendations, deadlines, rejections, more deadlines. One evening, Dad walked through the kitchen, glanced at the paperwork. Still doing those? I nodded. He opened the refrigerator. College is expensive. I waited. Nothing else came. No encouragement, no criticism, just observation. He grabbed a soda, left. I stared after him, then looked back at the application. And something ugly surfaced inside me. Not sadness, not disappointment. Resentment. Pure resentment. I hated him for that conversation. Not because of what he said, because of what he didn't. I wanted support, belief, interest. Instead, I got weather report energy. Neutral, detached, forgettable. I hated him. For maybe 30 seconds. Then I hated myself, because grief had already taught me something terrible. People disappear, and when they do, hatred becomes heavy. Too heavy. Eventually, I received enough scholarships to attend college. Not prestigious enough for newspaper headlines, not dramatic, just enough. Enough mattered. The day I moved into my dorm room, Dad helped carry boxes upstairs. We barely spoke, not because we were angry, because we didn't know how. At one point, he stood near the doorway, hands in pockets, looking,